Hey guys, Adam here with AmericanTrucks.com. Today we're taking a closer look at the Whipple cold air intake available for the 2017 and 2018 Raptor. Now, if you're the owner of that 2017-18 Raptor, first off, I'm extremely jealous, and second off, you might be looking to pull in a little bit more air than your factory inlet will actually let you. Now, the factory cold air intake is a little bit more restrictive than some of the aftermarket options, especially this Whipple one. Whipple lets us know with this added to your truck, not only can you expect a better breathing engine, which in turn equates for more power, but you can actually expect up to 10 wheel horsepower and 15 foot-pounds of torque with a 132% airflow increase. Those are seriously impressive numbers from a cold air intake. That is all because of the wider, durable, heat-resistant roto-molded tubing, along with the upgraded heat shield, and of course, the extra wide pleated cold air intake filter. Now this filter, as you can see, is a lot wider than your factory option and a lot wider than some of the other ones in the category. It's also a washable and reusable filter, so when it comes time for routine maintenance, pop this thing off, give it a good cleaning, throw it right back on, and you're good to go, good as new. This one here is a cotton gauze made from extremely high quality stuff, including a diamond wire mesh covering the outside here to make sure it's filtering out all the particles you don't want coming into the engine, but pulling in strictly that cold air that's gonna make all that power. Now this thing here is gonna cost you right around 380 bucks, which is a really common price tag among all the cold air intakes in the category. Whipple is a very, very well-known brand. You guys might have heard of them. They make really cool superchargers, and this cold air intake is gonna be a very welcomed addition to your Raptor. When all said and done, you can expect to have this done in about an hour, maybe a little less if you have some experience with intakes. This is one of the more easy installations you can do under the hood, so I'm giving it 1 out of 3 wrenches on our difficulty meter. Without further ado, I wanna show you guys how this process is done, so let's get to it.
Tools used for this install, all right, flathead, ratchet, extension, 7mm and 8mm deep socket.
All right, step number 1 here to disconnect our factory cold air intake, our factory air box. We're gonna go back here and disconnect the sensor harness. Now I'm just gonna pinch and pull straight back. All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is disconnect or loosen up all 3 of our clamps here holding on our factory tubing. We're gonna start on the one on the bottom. Now the head of this clamp is kind of tucked into the engine bay, so you wanna grab your longest flathead that you have, put it right down here past all of our tubing, and loosen this one up. Once you have that loosened up, you can rotate that and unlock it. All right, we're gonna do the same thing for the top 2 clamps. I'm gonna switch from the flathead to a 7mm socket and ratchet. All right, now we're able to disconnect and remove our tubing. All right, and just pop off your coolant hose from that attachment, and you can set this aside. All right, next up we can pop off the clips holding on our factory air box. That lifts up, slides right out. We can pop out that factory paper element filter. We finally got our factory air box out of our Raptor and on the table next to our Whipple cold air intake. As you can see, a lot of similarities, but a lot of big differences between the 2 kits. One of the similarities being the general shape of the tubing here stays the same. This one is gonna be a little bit wider from Whipple to allow for a bigger airflow. This is also a heat-resistant injection roto-molded plastic, so it does resist against that heat a little bit better than your factory option. The biggest difference between the 2 kits is gonna be your paper element filter versus your new Whipple conical design on the filter. Now this is gonna pull in a lot more cold air than this could. This isn't really designed to be as aerodynamic as your new filter here from Whipple, as you can see by the different designs, as you can see by the different shapes. Your Whipple filter is gonna filter a lot easier and a lot better than your factory one, so you'll see huge improvements there just by the breathing of the engine and how much more this will pull in air-wise. Now, as you can see from the air box, this doesn't look like much, but as you have it installed, your air filter will sit in, it seals against the inside of your hood and seals out all of that excess engine heat, strictly pulling in your cold air from the front by utilizing the bottom portion of your factory air box. Now the way this sat in your Raptor, sat in the bottom portion with the air inlet coming out toward the upper radiator shroud. That pulls in a lot of cold air from the front end, and we are still going to utilize that, as you see by us leaving it in the vehicle. There's a couple of things we have to transfer over, one of which being our sensor. You're just going to twist this and transfer it over to our new tubing. Before we can actually put this in our tubing, however, we want to install our rubber grommet. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to start to assemble our couplers and our clamps onto our new tubing. All right, installing our new grommet is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to turn over our intake tubing, pinch the grommet, and press it into place. That's going to be the new spot that your sensor is going to sit in. So moving on over to the factory tubing again. To remove your sensor, you're going to rotate this, find the sweet spot. You can just pull it straight back. We're going to transfer that into our new hole that we just put in our rubber grommet. Next up, we're going to start assembling our couplers onto our new tubing from Whipple. Now these are very much side specific. You want to make sure you're putting them on the correct side, but then again, they only go on one way. So we're going to pop our coupler through our clamp and then slide this onto our tubing. Once you have it seated all the way down, you can grab either a flathead screwdriver or an 8mm socket and ratchet and tighten down that clamp. First, we're going to loosen that and seat that all the way down. Now on the other end of that, you want to make sure you're grabbing the smallest clamp in the kit and putting that around the edge. Now, you don't want to tighten it down too much. I just like to get it just a little bit snug that leaves enough room for the edge of the coupler to flex, but still not quite fall off. We're going to install our secondary coupler. Now this is the same size on both sides, so it's not going to make a difference which one you put on first. So we're going to put our clamp through and seat this all the way down. Grab your socket and tighten it down. Now that we have our couplers in place, I want to install this in the vehicle, so we're going to start at the airbox and work our way down the tubing. First step for our installation, we're going to drop in our new Whipple heat shield. Now that is just going to hook on to the side of the factory lower airbox. Now that's going to seat just like this, and we're not going to bolt anything down just yet. What we're going to do is put in our new filter. All right, now we're not actually going to bolt this filter into anything. We're just going to seat this right inside the airbox. You want to have this in beforehand because once we put the tubing in, it won't fit, it won't be able to slide in. So we want to seat this in here, and eventually, once we have that tubing lined up, we'll be able to bolt it down like this. So for now, seat it just inside. All right, next up, we can drop in our Whipple tubing. We're going to connect it to our factory components with our new couplers, and then we're going to tighten down the clamps. Now we can rotate our clamp so that the head of the clamp that we're going to tighten down is facing upward and easy to access. Grab your socket and tighten them down. All right, now before we secure our air filter, you want to put on this stripping. Now this strip is going to go right around the edge of our metal air box just to seal it from any engine compartment heat that could seep through the crack here. That way you'll have a nice snug fit between the tubing and the air shield. So we're going to start by flipping this sideways and feeding it up into the slot on the strip. You might use a flathead screwdriver just to pry it up into the spot, and you want to work your way all the way around. All right, now we can pop our air filter on now that we have that trim in place. Want to make sure the air filter is on all sides, seated all the way against the heat shield. Grab your socket and tighten down the clamp. Now we can put on our weather stripping all the way around the box. This will seal it against the inside of the hood. All right, now you can trim off the excess. All right, to finish things off, let's plug in our sensor. that's gonna wrap up our cold air intake from Whipple on our 17 to 18 Raptor. So if you wanna get your Whipple cold air intake, you can do so for just under the $400 mark right here at AmericanTrucks.com.